The field of market research is one that touches many diverse perspectives and backgrounds. Market research professionals are no different, all of whom enjoy unique viewpoints, experiences, and paths in life. The points of view of young research professionals are a valuable resource to research agencies and those companies who engage in their own in-house research. That's because of what young research professionals can bring to the table, from new ways of looking at old challenges, to skills and specializations only they possess and a desire to pioneer a new solution. But what can young researchers expect when they start their careers in the field? What experience and accreditations will help them kickstart their careers? What skill sets and capabilities will serve them best once they land that job? Hello, and welcome to Stories of Market Research, the Insightrix podcast. I'm Duncan McGregor, the Marketing and Communications Coordinator at Insightrix Research in Saskatoon, Canada, and your podcast host. Today, we're talking about careers in the field of market research on a special panel discussion episode of the podcast. We'll be hearing from the viewpoints of some of the young research professionals who are part of the Insightrix team to get a sense of some of their ideas, opinions, and experiences in being a young research professional working in the world of market research. We'll look into some of the challenges they faced, the experiences and qualifications that have helped them and set them apart when both looking for and doing the job, and some of their day-to-day experiences in their careers in market research. If you want to put a face to the names you hear in this episode, we produced a bonus video for this special panel discussion. You can find the video on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/Insightrix_research. But first, we'll be joined by Insightrix Research Director, Lange Mcgill. I sat down with Lange for a few minutes to discuss how market research has changed over the years in regards to specific skills and specializations of the people who work in the field, and what he looks for in those looking to break into a career in market research. Skill sets and certifications, perspectives and opinions, and the universal truths of sound research design. All coming up next on Stories of Market Research, the Insightrix podcast. Here with Lange Mcgill, Director of Research for Insightrix Research in Saskatoon, Canada. How's it going today?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for coming in and doing this with us.
No problem.
We're trying to get an idea of some of the general skills, specializations that as young researchers should be focusing on if they're looking to get into market research. Maybe we can just jump right into it and ask you, as the Director of Research, how long have you been here?
I've been here for just over 11 years.
Oh, right on.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. Imagine you've seen a lot of things come and go and people come and go since you've been here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've grown, I think, really as a company in terms of when I first started, it was very flat, and we were everyone just kind of doing their own thing in research. Mm-hmm. And over the years, we've sort of become a little bit more, I think, formalized in our approach, but still very, very adaptable and flexible organization.
And how would you describe the research services department at Insightrix?
We're a curious bunch. We like to dig in and figure out our clients' problems and their challenges and try to help answer their questions that they've hired us to do. So I think it's a driven, solid group of people that are intelligent and inquisitive.
Speaking of the people that are working with you, what skills and skill sets are you looking for when you're hiring new researchers?
Well, probably the biggest thing we're looking for is someone who can see the big picture, but also they're able to be detail-oriented. And that's kind of a hard thing because usually someone is this and they're not really that, or the other way around. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a unique set, and not everyone in our department needs to have that exact mix, but that's a really dynamite kind of combination of you are able to sort of interpret the data to be able to tell the client what direction to move forward in, but also make sure that you get your I's dotted and your T's crossed in all of your work too, so that it's a solid piece of a product.
So if you were looking for any specific skill set, what would you think would be more valuable than another one?
Well, I think critical thinking skills is really important, and that's sort of that element to see the big picture, so that you can recommend the right solution. You need to have an analytical mind to do what we do. Mm-hmm. We do qualitative research as well as quantitative, so quantitative is with the numbers and qualitative more conversations like this. Yep. But even with the qualitative, you need to have an analytical mind to be kind of churning in your mind, okay, why are they saying this? What's what's the motive behind it. So you need to have that sort of drive. You need to be able to work independently, but also collaboratively, because it's difficult to pour through data with two people staring at one screen. So you need to be able to have a little bit of a direction and be able to say, okay, I'm going to run with this and explore, and then come back, and then we talk through the ideas, and so that collaborative element is important as well. Okay. Being able to carry projects forward with minimal direction. So again, being able to just say, hey, here's a couple ideas, let's explore that, and then they can apply those critical thinking skills to work on something. Strong sense of initiative is important too. There's so many projects going on that people need to be able to be their own drivers of motivation to get up, get to work, get stuff figured out, get stuff done, and sort of keep on track in terms of timelines and client commitments and things like that. There's not going to be someone sort of babysitting anyone to do that. It's really, everyone needs to pull their weight in that regard. Cool. Good multitasking and prioritization skills is important. That's something that you learn over time, particularly the prioritization is, what do I do first, what can I put off to later, and and certainly we're a very open environment where people bounce around, chat about, should I do this first or should we look at doing that next, and there's no right or wrong approach necessarily. It's just kind of figuring that out. Writing skills is a must. Really strong writing skills. We spend a lot of time documenting what we see are the key findings for clients, so it needs to be punchy, clear, succinct, and obviously follow all the rules of English grammar.
Mechanics and all that jazz.
Strong oral communication skills are also important, because you need to speak with clients over the phone, as well as deliver presentations and things like that. So those are elements that will over time become important as well. And in fact, even working with participants through, say, a focus group or a one-on-one interview, you need to be able to build that rapport with those people quickly. And so that's where that oral communication comes in. And obviously we need people to be strong with computer skills. They need to know Microsoft Office really well, and as well as a few other programs too.
I imagine Excel's a big one.
There's a lot of time in Excel. And PowerPoint and Word too.
Any of those reporting ones are a big deal too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how have these skill sets changed over the years? Like with the changes of technology, that kind of thing? Has you noticed any changes that you're in the staffing that you're looking at?
I think the basic function of what we do in research is the same, and it's been the same for many years. A client comes to us with a problem, and we need to find out a solution for them. The only thing that's changing is the tools that we have available to us now differ. So certainly people need to be more computer inclined, if that's a phrase, to be able to do these things. The other element too we're finding more as of late is that some clients are looking for us to sort of speak a little bit more beyond the numbers than just 32% that said this and 64% said that. So that's where it kind of comes into the ability to see the big picture and the critical thinking. So I think those have always been there, but they're maybe becoming a little bit more important now.
So how have some of the people who are in your research department who are maybe new to market research or new hires advanced or informed the ways that you guys report market research or do it actually?
Being in part of a small company, you're really impacted by the gifts that each employee brings to the organization. So someone like Seth, for example, has a strong background in computer sort of programming and
that kind of thing.
Things like that. So we've really been able to automate some tasks. And for example, there's one project where there's 1,300 individual reports that needed to be cut from the larger data set. And so there's no way you can do that manually. So he was able to basically harness macros and statistical programs to be able to do that and get things done in scope with what we had estimated with our budget, but obviously far more cost effective than it would have been even 5 years ago. Totally. And on that topic about what sort of changed, we are using more programs that do some of the more straightforward tasks of building graphs and things like that. And so there's tricks of the trade that our group, particularly some of our newer professionals, are figuring how to harness, so that rather than rebuild things from scratch, they can simply do a save as and right click and update graph and things like that to really make things efficient and also assist with quality, because then you don't need to check the numbers because it's linked directly to the source. I mean, obviously you still need to check them, but the chance for error, I guess, is reduced.
Diminished a lot. So do you have any advice for anybody seeking a career in market research at all?
I think the biggest thing is follow your passion. So I mean, while many people can do the what's required in market research, only those with a true passion can really shine in our sector. So I think, if you don't know if market research is something for you, because it's not really a commonly talked about thing, it's not like a subject per se in most schools, right?
That's fair.
So just ask yourself what interests you. So do you care to know what consumers think? Do you want to know why people are buying this product versus that product, or brand impressions, things like that? Are you interested in helping businesses and organizations make decisions based on solid data as opposed to just gut feel or looking at So do you like digging into data and uncovering, it's almost like taking a bunch of Lego bits and kind of going through them and then building something with it.
Okay.
And so if you like doing that kind of stuff, and that means looking at a data set like with ones and zeros on your screen for a good chunk of the day, and that's not for everybody, right? But do you also like the balance of the big picture thinking, but also getting deep into the weeds? So ask yourself those things, and if those are what interests you, then it might be something for you. If you know that market research is a passionate area for you, then just arm yourself with the tools to increase your value when you're looking to find employment in the sector. So make sure you master that Word and Excel and PowerPoint and those things like that, as well as a statistical program. It doesn't really matter which one, because there's transferable skills from SPSS to Q to R, that kind of thing. But just having exposure to being able to crunch data is beneficial. Brush up on business writing skills. We can all improve on that kind of thing, and it's a continuous improvement that we're doing even in the company. But clear, succinct writing is essential in this type of business. So definitely that's an important area. So if you don't really like writing, then that's something to question, right? Okay. Come in with an attitude of I want to learn, as opposed to I know what's best kind of attitude. Yeah. It takes probably 2 years to really become a well-rounded researcher, and 5 to become proficient in the craft. So there's learning that all of us do every day. Every time we work with a new client, you're exposed to something. So there's always learning that happens. And then, as a final thing, read up on some trends on what's going on in the industry, particularly with the technology. But at the same time, be aware that things don't always move as fast as the hype suggests. Traditional online surveys with panels and in-person focus groups are still very much alive in our sector today. We're obviously always looking to, evolve and push the envelope and do things differently rather than the way they've always been done. But so it's good to read up on things, but also be aware that, transition does take time.
Yeah, talking to the other researchers yesterday, they really nailed down the fact that a love of research is a really big part of what you need to know. And frankly, good research design is transferable across everything, right? But each new client brings new things, so you better be ready to learn.
Absolutely, and we've got a real great, strong group of people in our group, so I'm happy to hear that's what they came up with too. We didn't compare notes in advance.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, thanks a lot for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Awesome. You have a great one.
You too.
Let's just jump into it then. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you guys being part of our little podcast, and we hope to get some great insights on careers in market research. Might as well start with some introductions. Let's go from that end.
Great. I'm Nikki Greschner. I am from Saskatoon, right here in our hometown, I guess.
How about you?
I'm Seth Owusu. I also live in Saskatoon, but originally I'm from Ghana.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Nathaniel Logan. I also live in Saskatoon, and I'm originally from Jamaica.
And I'm Rim Hassan, and I come from Egypt. I'm just newly joining Saskatoon now.
And I'm Brian, and I've lived in Saskatoon my whole life.
Right on. So, Saskatoon, go. So, I want to get into you guys' backgrounds, how you guys ended up in market research, that kind of stuff. But let's just ease into it. Maybe we could start by looking at your educational backgrounds and how that relates to market research. Does anybody want to go first? Where'd you all go to school?
University of Saskatchewan.
Right on. What certifications did you get there?
So I started off with a BA in psychology, and then I followed up with a master's in psychology, focusing on cognition and neuroscience.
Oh, wow. So I imagine that relates a little bit to market research.
More in my earlier kind of research, which was survey-based, looking at things like social anxiety and depression. So that definitely fit a lot closer to what I'm doing now.
Did you find that psychology and a career in that, or your education in that, had prepared you for a market research career?
Yeah, I do think it did, although it certainly wasn't my intention at the time. I hadn't really considered market research as being, a possible avenue afterwards, but certainly the skills that you gain there have a lot of overlap with what you do in market research.
How so?
Well, basically the whole kind of experience of research from design to execution and then analysis and reporting stuff is common between the two of them. It's just kind of the subject matter that changes, so you got a lot of experience there that's similar.
Cool. How about you, Reem? What school did you go to?
Well, I went to the German University in Cairo.
Cool.
And I studied, I have a bachelor degree with double majors in marketing and strategic management. So it was basically very related to my field, which is market research. I knew that I wanted to get into market research since I was at university, since we started studying market research, I felt like that would be an interesting field to pursue.
What about it made you think it was interesting?
Well, I was the student that likes to do reports, basically.
Right on. You better like doing reports if you like market
that
research.
Was my favorite. I didn't like studying so much. I liked the part where I got to write the thesis or just like writing reports and all that. So market research, you get to do a lot of these things. So that's that was what attracted me to it, basically.
That must have been pretty good preparation then for your career in market research.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Transferred pretty well?
Yeah, there's this transferability of, report writing kind of is a huge part of the market research field, basically.
How about you, Logan?
Yeah, so I initially did a Bachelor of Science in Pharmacology in Jamaica. And then in 2011, I came to Canada. I did a postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma in international business management. So then I got a little touch of market research there. I did a few things on market research, or more like business research.
Yeah.
And then I did a master's in pharmaceutical science. So
wow.
a lot more research aspect there. So yeah.
Did you find that related, like the research you were doing in university, related to market research in any way?
I wouldn't say necessarily related to market research, but I guess the design and how from design to analysis, a lot of that is kind of related, right?
Yeah. Research design is research design is research design, right?
Yeah.
So, beautiful. How about you, Seth? Where'd you go to school?
Sorry,
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you there.
I started with my bachelor's degree in Ghana in economics, and then in 2013 I moved here to pursue my master's in economics. So I majored in econometrics, basically statistics, quantitative analysis, and all of that. And I didn't really think at that time that I was going to end up in market research, because I was thinking about policy research, dealing with the economy, inflation, and all others. Yeah. But I found myself in this field, and I see that there was a lot of overlap, because you're dealing with statistics analysis. The only thing is that in the economics, you're dealing a lot with secondary data, but in market research, because of the surveys and all of that, so we deal a lot with primary data, but the analysis and everything is pretty much the same.
Cool. How about you, Nikki?
So I started out at the University of Saskatchewan in kinesiology, actually.
Oh, right on.
And then I ended up taking entrepreneurship elective and decided I really liked business courses, so I made the switch into commerce and graduated with my BCom in marketing. So obviously there's a few crossovers between marketing and market research, so you can take your market research classes. And I was really interested in consumer behavior, so I did the honors program in my last year, and so it's a full year research-based project working with a professor kind of thing, and then you can go on to do things like Brian, do your master's and that kind of good stuff. But yeah, I looked at consumer food purchasing behavior, and a lot of it's just to do with psyche and what things consumers and shoppers look at when making purchase decisions and things like that. So a lot of it's quite related to what we do
transferable
now,
for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
And I mean, even in marketing, they kind of outlined market research as a potential career path. I didn't know necessarily that's what I wanted to do, but it was something that I was definitely open to and interested in, I guess, from my education. So
really diverse backgrounds, very diverse educational backgrounds, everything, right? It seems the one thing that we have in common is a love of research, though, right? That's it, because frankly, it's transferable all the way across. As long as you're doing good research in any field, you're doing good research, right? So
Right.
let's talk about your professional backgrounds a lot, because this is going to have to do a lot with a lot of the folks who are looking to get into market research themselves or are kind of interested in the career. We all know that education's great, but experience is really what gets you in the door most of the time, right? Anybody want to share some of their previous experience? Reem, you go first.
Well, I actually got graduated quite a while back, so
Yeah.
I've been kind of jumping around from different careers until I finally got into the market research career. I started out in like an in-house department for research, which is basically you have a company and they have their own research department nestled within the company itself. This differs a bit from the agency experience in the sense that you don't have different clients, you have just the same clients that you're kind of working for. And there's also a lot more room for you you're expected to do pretty much everything, and instead of in the agency side you kind of have people who write proposals and people who are specialized in qualitative, people specialized in quant and so on. On the other side, when it's in-house, you kind of have to do everything. So it was good because it gives you a lot of experience and it teaches you all the different aspects of the process itself. So that was kind of my background.
Did you acquire any special skills or abilities while you were doing that help you doing market research, like reporting, data analysis, collection, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you get exposed, once you start working, there's a lot of things that you kind of learn that you don't learn at school. So a lot of the skills are things that you kind of learn on the job, like, for example, moderating or things like even report writing. There's just the business aspect of it is something that you have to acquire through your job.
It's a big difference between business writing and essay writing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, there's just a little bit of technical knowledge that you kind of acquire as you go on the job as well, besides the theoretical stuff that you get at school.
Cool. How about you, Nikki?
What's the question?
Your professional background, can you describe it a little bit?
Mine varies from Reem's a little bit. I'm pretty fresh into the workforce,
That's
so
excellent.
Before taking this position, I actually had one other kind of contracted term position with two financial planners. They were kind of merging their businesses together, and actually did a bit of branding work for them after graduating. So that's kind of my first big girl job in the real world, I guess you could say. In my undergraduate degree, I was a volunteer board member, so I actually got quite a bit of transferable business skills and knowledge of, business operations and the way organizations are run and things like that.
Right on.
It was with a student-run health clinic in Saskatoon, so I thought that was quite valuable experience, and got to do a lot of marketing and kind of HR, and wore a couple different hats in my time with them. So
cool.
Really enjoyed that, and it seemed to be a helpful, experience when looking for work and kind of first entering into the job force. So
Yeah. Were you actually looking to obtain specific skills while you're doing that kind of thing, or was it just sort of madly rushing to what am I trying to say? Madly trying to get the skills that you needed to do your gig at the time?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I guess really the best way to say that is, were you involved in any skills development specific to market research? That's the best way to say that.
We had kind of a research committee that we'd send projects through, so I was exposed to a little bit of that in just our general board discussions and things like that. And I guess it wasn't so much research as more just general business and office related practices and things like that.
Gotcha.
And grant writing, those kinds of things. But as far as the research goes, it's maybe a little bit more disconnected from that as it was to maybe a more general marketing profession. But
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
How about you, Logan? What was your professional background look like before you started as a research associate?
Well, I've done a lot of schooling, so as you heard, I've been in school for so long. So then, as a grad student, I was a research associate, so a research assistant. You're working with your supervisor, also working on your project, so you got a lot of exposure there, to a lot of analysis and kind of building your it's also report writing skills as well.
Yeah.
And then after finishing, I started working here in Insightrix Research first, like, and as an interviewer, and then supervisor, and then research associate. So
Right on.
kind of got a feel of from the basics, getting the data collection skills and managing skills after there, managing people's skills after that, and kind of getting an idea of what kind of questions are would entail in different types of research. So kind of getting a different look on the field from there.
Yeah, I imagine it must be a little bit different than pharmacological research, right? In that.
Yeah, but as Brian mentioned, a lot of it, the subjects might just change, but I mean, research is research, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that's the general part, because once you have a general understanding of research, right, I think it's so flexible. It can be used anywhere, right? So
That's a good takeaway. Just get a really good understanding of research, and it's very transferable to pretty much anywhere, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Brian.
Yeah, so my only other kind of relevant work experience would be as a summer research assistant in a neuroscience lab, which ended up leading into my master's program. So a lot of that was very kind of technical skills, working in the lab and lots of time on a microscope. So probably less of the actual kind of research methodology and reporting and such that I later got experience in, but it's what kind of set me down that path more.
Right on. So how did you end up in market research?
Well, I was kind of looking for any kind of opportunity that would allow me to still continue doing research, but outside of the academic world. And so market research hadn't even really been on my radar as something to look for. It wasn't something I was thinking of at all, but when I saw a job posting for it, and I was looking through the requirements and mentioning experience in social research, and it kind of made me realize that this was something that really fit me quite well, and I was kind of like, well, this is for me then. So yeah.
Cool. And Seth, what was your professional background like?
Well, a lot of my professional background was in the academic world. After my undergraduate degree, I worked as a teaching assistant at the university, so helping students clean their data, analyze, and do everything with statistical packages and statistical software.
Oh, right on.
So that's what I did, and when I came to Canada here, did my master's degree, it was the same thing I was doing, just helping them analyze data, clean and everything. So that gave me some kind of exposure to a lot of statistical packages and software, and my curiosity also led me to explore a lot of other software. So it took me to programming and just dealt with so much software, just a lot of them. And and I saw this job posting, and I loved research actually. So I looked at it and I was like, oh well, let me just give it a try, and I put it in, and I ended up in market research. So.
Any chance to get paid for research, right? It's awesome. Yeah. So you sound like you have a pretty good interest in reporting and automation, that kind of thing. Yeah. Do you find you use that a lot here at Insightrix?
Yeah, I do that a lot. Just any opportunity to just automate processes and gain some efficiencies in there. It's something that I just look for. So I do, and I look for those opportunities to just gain those efficiencies. Yeah.
So programming is definitely a skill that you'd be saying is something that people should be picking up.
For sure, it's a good thing. Those languages help, because I did R, and the knowledge of R helped me in JavaScript. It helped me in Visual Basic, and any other program that I pick up. Like the basics that I have in R actually helps me to understand and then just pick up on that language. So it's a good skill to have in market research.
Awesome. Why don't we talk about some of the challenges and obstacles that people have had in their early career in market research? Does anybody have a moment that they'd like to, or feel comfortable sharing, where they can talk about like, wow, maybe I am on the right track here?
I don't know, I guess just like when you find that you're really interested in a project or something like that, and you know that your interests are aligning with the type of work that you're doing. I think that's kind of like a nice aha moment to have, especially when you're first starting out, to say like, hey, I'm actually really enjoying the work that I'm doing, kind of thing, or this project is really interesting. I think that's a pretty good indicator that you've I guess, selected something that is maybe the right path for you. But
Yeah, I know whenever you start a new gig and it's a new field and you get into it and you find out that your skills are transferable and you're actually, sort of sliding into the groove a little bit, it sure does feel good, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does.
Any hard times overcome by anybody? Were there any challenges that anybody would like to share about their early moments in market research that might actually get somebody over the hump who's feeling the same way themselves?
Well, I think for me, it's mostly because it's a project-based kind of field, sometimes you find that there's a lot of workload. So the projects kind of end up all happening at the same time. Sometimes you'll have months where you don't have any projects, and then there's this 1 month that you have 5 or 6 projects that are due at the same time, and I don't know why this always seems to happen.
Yeah.
So if you're still starting out, sometimes you can be overwhelmed and you feel like it's the end of the world and it's like your life is over because you just have so many deadlines and you just get too worried about it. But the thing is, it's everything will pass. Eventually these reports are gonna come out, everything's gonna be done, and everything will be over. And just don't sweat it too much. Don't worry too much about it. It's even the people you work with or managers, they're always going to be aware that if there's too many things on your plate, they will understand that there will be some things that might be a little bit delayed, or they will try to support you and all that. And just try to reach out and speak up if you feel like you're too overwhelmed.
That's awesome. That's good advice. I saw you nodding your head a lot there, Steph, too. Do you agree?
It's the same thing. I also go through the same things. Sometimes when I have a lot of things to do and I have these deadlines to meet, I feel like there is this weight on my shoulders, and when the report goes out, I feel so relieved, and it's like a huge burden being lifted off my shoulders. So it's just attesting to what Reen was saying.
It's awesome. It's kind of like finishing the test kind of thing. Yeah. Nothing better than that weight off the shoulders. Running a race is a good analogy, right? Because honestly, the exhaustion's in there too, right? Well, that's the beautiful thing about research is that when you like it, that's one of those things that you grow to accept, though, right? It's just part of the research game is that there are going to be long nights sometimes, but at the same time, it pays off. So, does anybody want to tell me what a day in the life of a market research professional looks like? Because that's another thing that a lot of people looking at the career might be a little curious about, because what does a market researcher do? Maybe you could share, Brian.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the day and what's on the docket for.
Is it true that every day brings something different, kind of thing?
It does, yeah, in the order of it certainly. But I think most days will probably include a fair bit of analyzing data with programs like Q or SPSS, and working with it in Excel as well as PowerPoint to kind of graph them and visually represent it. So I'd say most of my time's probably spent analysis and then transferring that right kind of into reporting, kind of doing both at the same time generally.
Cool.
But then when there's times for kind of new projects coming up, then some questionnaire design and such, but the bulk majority of the time would be reporting and analysis.
What about you, Reed? What's an average day look like for you? Because I know you do some reporting as well.
I think, of course, the reporting is it's taking a lot of our time, basically, because it's the end product of the whole process. There's also project management, where you kind of have to keep track of which stage each project is in. Is it in the fieldwork yet, or are there any fieldwork problems, and just make sure that everything's going smoothly. And also just dealing with clients if they have questions, or if there are certain things that you need to share with them or they need to share with you, things like that. Attending kickoff meetings to understand just how the projects are going to go or what the client needs. There's also on the other side of the spectrum, the qualitative research, where you're doing more of interviewing or focus groups just to understand people and answer questions, but using a different methodology from gathering data or surveys. So that's pretty much the cycle, I guess, for every project.
You look like you had some interest in qual research yourself there. I imagine you're doing a lot of it, Logan?
Yeah, because if you're not reporting, because a lot of stuff I've done on quite a bit is being a part of a lot of IDIs, so interviews, So like
In-depth interviews for those who don't know.
In-depth interviews, and like taking notes or even conducting the interviews. So that could depends on the project you're on. A lot of your days could involve with a lot of those as well, along with a lot of reporting, and could be a lot of analysis as well, or just trying to find similar themes within those in-depth interviews. So a lot of those things as well.
Cool. How about you, Seth? What do you get up to?
In addition to the reporting and project management that Brian already mentioned, you sometimes also get these requests from clients that you didn't even plan for, right?
Oh yeah.
Like you send out a report and they come back and they have, can you do this? Can you just run these numbers? Can you find out what's in here? And these things come, they're unexpected. You don't expect them. You come in the morning, you have a plan, and these things sometimes come and they end up taking your whole day sometimes. So yeah, those are things to that.
Well, you know what they say, research begets research. How about you, Nicole? How's the average day look like for you?
Yeah, they've pretty much covered it off between everything, but I'd say a lot of project and client management just on a day-to-day basis. So managing expectations and when things shift, making sure you're keeping people notified and not just letting the kind of projects run on their own, is a big component of it too. Yeah, coordinating with the other departments in our office too. We have a pretty collaborative workplace, so that's always nice. You can turn your chair around when I don't know how to do something with Q, or if I need an R script written for something, then I can always tap on Seth's shoulder, or ask people to review your work. It's kind of nice to have that resources available to you when you're writing reports and things like that. So that's another big part of our day, I guess, is just kind of taking away those little learnings, or at least for me being kind of new to the workforce and the market research industry. I think that's really valuable to have, and I find that I do that quite often on a day-to-day basis. So
keeping those plates spinning is a real good part of it, hey? Finally, I had one question, because I think it's something that could be pretty useful to folks looking to get into market research themselves. You guys have any advice for anybody looking to get into market research as a career? Like what kind of education or professional background do you think would be most beneficial? Stuff like that kind of thing? Logan, you start.
Yeah, sure. I think the number one thing is, which I think most of us touched on, is just have a love for research, right? Because if you have that love for research, you'll be able to eventually love what you do and be interested. So the more interest you have, the more you get to know the field and understand the different technical parts of the career as well, right? So and also just be open, because market research has a lot of different parts. It could be qualitative, you're just doing, conducting interviews, or quantitative, you're dealing with numbers. So, just got to be open to different aspects of market research. So just have an open mind.
So developing skills is a really good idea, but don't over-specialize, or think that over-specialization is going to carry you through. Sort of be able to jump from one shoe to the next from day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. How about you, Brian?
This is a very specific technical one, but learn Excel formulas.
Oh, yeah, day one, right?
Yeah, things like if, and, or, index, HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP. Those will solve 99% of the problems you encounter, and they're not that hard to learn. So
right on.
Learn them early and
master Excel. Master Excel. And is there anybody want to share anything that people should know before you start a career in market research? You were touching on late hours as being one of the things that people are going to have to be able to deal with, and we've been mentioning multitasking is another big thing. Is there anything else that people should know that they should look for before they start getting into the career?
I guess maybe too, just kind of what Reem was touching on, how initially she started in-house versus at an agency or doing work for many different organizations. I think that's maybe one thing that you could maybe dial down your interest and say, do I want to work for just one company and really focus on what they're doing, or are you more interested in switching it up on a day-to-day basis, because maybe that'd be more crucial to the decision in which company you decide to work for if you're only working for that one versus many of them, I guess would be another thing to consider. But
okay.
And also just have a clear idea, like if you want to go into more quantitative roles versus qualitative roles, because I think usually when you first start out, the first thing they ask you in an interview for any job like this, are you more into numbers, or do you like talking more to people? So sometimes you wouldn't know. Like for me, I had no idea like which side I would prefer more, and sometimes you might find that you find both interesting. But it's good to explore, like kind of have an idea and think about which pathway you want to take.
That's good advice. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Beautiful. I want to thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been really informative having you guys here, and really thank you for sharing your experiences and your backgrounds, and look forward to seeing you all around the office more.
Okay.
All right, you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The 2018 Saskatchewan Social Media Report is now available. The 2018 report gives you access to both qualitative and quantitative regionally specific social media data trended from 2016 to give you an accurate and representative snapshot of social media usage over time, as well as the usage of social media by demographics. The 2018 Saskatchewan Social Media Report is an indispensable tool for targeted digital marketing intelligence in the Saskatchewan marketplace, and it's now available for purchase on the Insightrix website. To purchase the report or for more information, go to Insightrix.com.
And there you have it. I'd like to thank our entire panel of young research professionals, Seth, Nikki, Logan, Reem, and Brian, for coming on the podcast and sharing their experiences and viewpoints. Hearing from them is a great resource for market research managers looking to understand the perspectives of young researchers, as well as for those young researchers looking to break into a career in the field. If you'd like to see a video of our conversation, we produced some bonus content for you hardcore listeners. It's available on YouTube on the Insightrix YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Insightrix_research. If you want to put a face to a name, it's a great place to start. I'd also like to thank Insightrix Research Director Lange Mcgill for taking the time out of a very busy schedule to talk to us. Having his perspective, straight from the horse's mouth, about the field and how young researchers can break into it and contribute to it was pretty invaluable. And of course, last but surely not least, I'd like to thank our loyal and rapidly growing fan base. Please remember to like, subscribe, and review the show on iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, Podbean, or any other platform you listen to the Insightrix podcast on. We really appreciate it, and it's a great way to get the show in front of more people with an interest in market research. If you have any questions about market research, or if you have an idea from a market research project and would like to speak about getting it underway, you can contact Insightrix through the Insightrix website, www.insightrix.com, or email us at info@insightrix.com. We'll be back in a few weeks with another episode of Stories of Market Research, the Insightrix podcast.